In the 58th cycle of the Galactic Union, humanity was considered one of the oldest and most established members. Among the original 5 founding species of the Union, the humans, Vakari, Toluan, Kalari, and Vexari, humans stood apart not by flash or firepower, but through a legacy of subtlety, adaptability, and ironclad resilience. While other elder races like the Vakari flaunted their tactical genius and the Toluan dazzled with philosophical discourse, humanity had chosen a different path: quiet, consistent action that echoed longer than speeches or parades. The Galactic Union itself was a sprawling confederation of 150 known species, formed to foster interstellar cooperation, scientific advancement, and mutual defense. It was governed by a chamber of ambassadors, each representing their own people. At the top of the chamber sat the High Council, composed of the 5 founding species. These 5 held veto powers and shaped the grand direction of Union law and war. Humanity, as the first chair of the council, had long occupied the position with deliberate restraint. Their representative, Ambassador Aisha Venkataraman, was a woman of precision and resolve. She rarely spoke, but when she did, her words cut through debates like a monomolecular blade. An imposing presence in midnight blue diplomatic armor, her gaze alone was enough to silence lesser delegates. Yet humans didn't command respect through titles or speeches. You could find them in every layer of Union society. They were the chief engineers overseeing gravitational arrays on capital ships. They served as senior tacticians at the Strategic Command. They led exploration missions beyond the mapped sectors and ran frontier research outposts where few dared to venture. Human military personnel, in particular, were revered, especially by the older warrior races, such as the Crawley, a feline species of ritual-bound warriors, and the Zatari, towering armored nomads from the Orion Reach. These species held ancient codes of honor, and they found kinship in the way humans approached war, without bluster, without ceremony, just precision and purpose. The Crawley High General famously once said, "A human who chooses war is not seeking glory. They are solving a problem." In silence, the humans thrived. In action, they commanded the galaxy's attention. And as the galaxy would soon learn, their silence was not weakness. It was warning. The discontent began with the younger species, the Noril, the Athai, and the Mershad. Races that had joined the Union in the past century, full of energy and ambition. They looked at the humans and saw ghosts, quiet, seemingly passive, yet mysteriously influential. Their youth led them to equate visibility with importance. The humans, they believed, were relics with undeserved power. At first, the provocations were minor. The Noril questioned human decisions in public forums. The Mershad press circulated satirical images of the human ambassador dozing off during council sessions. The Athai banned human trade vessels from their starports, citing security concerns. Warnings came from all sides. The Solari, a telepathic aquatic race, addressed the council. Humans speak in actions, not words. If they do not respond, it is not ignorance, it is calculation. The Crawley General Council issued a private communiqué to the Athai: "We have fought beside humans. You should learn what restraint truly costs." Even the Vexari, the most aloof of the High Council, broke protocol to tell the younger races, "If humanity seems quiet, it is because you are not listening at the right frequency." The Kalari, usually silent, made their first public statement in decades. "We who have lived through the flame epoch saw Terrans hold a dying world together for a decade without aid. That is not the work of a fading people." Still, the younger species didn't listen. Emboldened by each other and their swelling populist movements at home, they pushed harder. Provocation turned to deliberate humiliation. Human diplomats were mocked in public debates. A Noril representative once sneered at Lieutenant Commander Jonas Hale, a veteran of 3 frontier campaigns, during a strategy session. "Perhaps the humans have grown too old to be relevant." Hale didn't respond. He closed his data pad, looked at the Noril, and said quietly, "Check the casualty logs from Operation Talon Verge." The Noril ambassador went silent after reviewing the data. Hale had led a 5-person human squad that rescued 112 Noril engineers trapped behind enemy lines during a pirate siege. Without air support. Without backup. He never brought it up. Captain Raul Serrano, stationed on the Joint Research Station in the Leary Belt, endured a staged protest from SCI-FI students accusing humans of monopolizing scientific breakthroughs. Serrano calmly pulled up Union Patent Archive records. Of the last 1,200 scientific discoveries adopted union-wide, humans had co-authored only 16%. If you feel overshadowed by 16%. The issue is not our presence, he said. Meerschad media outlets ran a week-long documentary accusing Terran mining guilds of exploitation, only to be discredited by a Solari audit team which found the Meerschad conglomerates guilty of using Terran licenses without royalties. The provocations expanded to minor skirmishes. Supply ships accidentally harassed in Noral space. Terran colony beacons tampered with. A group of Meerschad students hacked into a human academy's database and replaced curriculum files with derisive messages. Every action, met with silence. Or, worse, quiet corrections. The systems would be fixed. Data restored. But no words came from the humans, and that silence was louder than any threat. The tipping point came when a Noral fleet, under the guise of a routine patrol, raided a small research outpost in the Helios Drift. The station was lightly staffed, only 48 human scientists and 2 civilian AI units. No one was killed, but the lab's data was irreparably corrupted, sensitive research lost, and their equipment smashed. The attack sent shockwaves through the Terran Scientific Assembly, but the political response was, again, muted. In the next council session, Ambassador Venkataraman stood and addressed the chamber with her usual calm. We acknowledge the incident in Helios Drift. We are addressing it internally. The younger species erupted in mocking laughter. The Meerschad Prime Delegate leaned back in his seat and waved a fin dismissively. Are we to believe humans will fix everything with silence and stares? Is that all Terran supremacy amounts to now, posture and nostalgia? Other council members shifted uncomfortably. Some expected a verbal retort. Some hoped for outrage. But Venkataraman simply sat down. That same cycle, 2 of the 5 High Council races, the Talyuan and the Vrakari, broke their usual neutrality. Vrakari War Speaker Jorik rose from his seat and addressed the chamber. You poke the wolf enough. Eventually it stands up. And it does not howl before it bites. Talyuan historian Priest Velan added, there is a pattern to Terran quietude. You are not witnessing weakness. You are standing in the eye of something old and vast. Still, the younger races believed humans were hiding behind allies, protected by the bureaucracy of the Union. Instead of backing down, they escalated. On the Karate broadcast net, a Meerschad political satirist hosted a segment titled, The Hollow Throne, mocking the Terran seat on the High Council with puppet reenactments of past human glories, portraying them as blind luck or outdated tactics. A group of SCI-FI protesters vandalized the Earth Embassy on Orion Station, spraying slogans like, Step Aside, Fossils, and End Human Hegemony. Security footage showed one protester planting a Terran flag upside down, then setting it on fire. The Noral began massing military assets near Landra and Titus Reach, 2 human colonies with no strategic significance, installing defense satellites and weaponized orbiters. They declared it regional stabilization. Meerschad hackers released a trove of doctored human military logs, falsely implicating Terran commanders in fabricated war crimes. The files were quickly disproven by independent Solari investigators, but the damage in public opinion lingered. The SCI chancellor issued a challenge during a press conference, saying, if the humans are truly as formidable as their allies claim, let them prove it in open forum, not behind the skirt of the High Council. Even the Zatari issued a rare warning to the younger races. We have seen what happens when humans stop being still. You will not enjoy the lesson. In one confrontation, Commander Marcus Ives of the Terran Diplomatic Corps was cornered by SCI journalists at a trade summit. Why do humans never defend themselves? Why do you hide behind your allies? Ives looked into the camera and said, if we were hiding, you'd never find us. He walked away. The quote went viral, the provocations kept coming. The pressure mounted. Rumors whispered of Terran ships disappearing from joint task forces. Quiet withdrawals from cooperative ventures. A faint uptick in military exercises deep within Terran space. A coordinated attack was launched on New Eden, a terraformed planet orbiting Epsilon Eridani. A human colony of 7 million, New Eden was a beacon of culture, famed for its planetary gardens that stretched from tundra domes to ocean canopies, its philosophy universities that drew minds from across the stars, and its peacekeeping academies that trained the finest mediators and conflict resolution specialists in the Union. It had no planetary shields. No major defense systems. Its population lived under the assumption of peace, under the weight of treaties that had stood for centuries. The attackers assumed it would be a statement strike, bloody, effective, humiliating. 3 Noral cruisers and 5 Mershed frigates crossed the Epsilon threshold. Breaching Union protocols. They disabled the orbital defense grid within minutes using brute force jamming algorithms and localized EMP bursts. Sirens wailed across New Eden's arcologies. Civic networks scrambled. Broadcasts cut out mid-sentence. Children were rushed into underground shelters. Emergency services activated colony-wide lockdown protocols, the fleet charged weapons. Plasma capacitors surged. Missile bays opened. Kinetic rails aligned, but before a single shot could be fired, their ships went dark, no power. No lights. No life support. Backup reactors stalled, auxiliary batteries failed. Their quantum relays collapsed, communications blacked out. Hull-integrated AI cores stuttered and flatlined. Weapon systems melted from within, coils cracking, nanowire lattices dissolving into slag. Within moments, human cyber warfare AIs, silent, autonomous, deeply embedded, had activated. No signals were sent. No code was transmitted. These AIs had been inserted years earlier, dormant within shared maintenance subroutines and firmware patches. The attackers had imported the virus themselves, mistaking precision for passivity. Then came the second surprise. Human stealth corvettes decloaked at precise vectors, no more than 50 meters from each enemy hull. They had been waiting. They boarded all 8 ships simultaneously, using synchronized breach units that bypassed mechanical locks and phased through security systems like shadows. In less than 6 minutes, every commanding officer was taken captive. Entire crews were sedated, restrained, and stabilized with non-lethal tech. No one was killed. Not a single drop of blood spilled. The enemy ships were left floating, inert, dead in space, broadcasting automated distress signals across all Union emergency channels. The governments of the Noral and Mershed scrambled to recover their fleets. Their crews were returned, unharmed and disoriented. Their officers were handed over to the Union Tribunal and stood trial for violations of interstellar law. And then, without ceremony, it began. Fusion cores from Terran Industries stopped shipping, mid-contract, mid-orbit, without a single memo. Sensor suites designed by Terran engineers stopped calibrating. Navlinks drifted, and targeting arrays began accumulating critical errors. Food synthesizers from New Rotterdam were pulled from distribution. Medical AIs from Healcore ceased updates, and hospitals across Noral and Mershed space began experiencing cascading diagnostic failures. Routine surgeries became unpredictable. Advanced reactor coolant from Lunatech vanished. Quantum regulators produced under joint Kalari-human patents reverted to prior firmware, rendering them incompatible with Noral and Mershed fleet infrastructure. Terran instructors withdrew from their advisory positions. Long-term technical exchanges were re-evaluated. Civilian life stuttered. Transit hubs fell out of sync. Orbital elevators stalled mid-ascent. Waste recycling programs halted. Agricultural bots failed to recognize crop maturity cycles. On military channels, ships sat in dock, unable to engage jump drives due to missing stabilizer harmonics originally tuned by human mathematicians decades earlier. No announcement. No sanctions. Just absence. The economic arteries of the Noral, Mershed, and HFY began to clog. Hospitals ran slower. Resource shipments were misrouted. Patrol ships couldn't jump. Military logistics splintered under their own weight. Their synthetic economies, built atop layers of silent Terran architecture, unraveled thread by thread. They screamed sabotage. They demanded union hearings. Emergency summits were convened. Press conferences held. Ambassador Venkataraman responded calmly, "We do not comment on supply chain management by independent corporations." There was no direct evidence. No proof of wrongdoing. No signatures in the code. No traceable acts. Just systems failing, one after the other, as if the stars themselves had decided to look away. But everyone knew. And across the Union, even the most stoic council members couldn't help but smile. The humans had finally stood up. And they didn't shout. They just turned off the lights. Cornered and desperate, the three races attempted one last act of defiance. They would strike at the heart of humanity's pride, Proxima Centauri. The first extrasolar system colonized by humans, home to the iconic orbital city Nova Terra. A gleaming arcology of glass and titanium, Nova Terra was the cultural and historical soul of Terran space, a symbol, not just of survival, but of thriving against cosmic odds. They believed humans had grown soft, too reliant on allies and commerce. Their fleets, while large, hadn't seen open war in decades. They gambled that humanity's silence meant decay. That behind the prestige and quiet competence, there was rust. They were wrong. When the invading fleets arrived, two full Noral war groups. A Mershad carrier squadron, and a Thai plasma barges, they met no resistance at first. Nova Terra's traffic lanes cleared. Civilian transports disappeared from local channels. For 8 full minutes, sensors picked up no movement. Then the stars flickered. From behind Proxima B's third moon, the third Terran armada uncloaked, dozens of massive capital ships, their hulls black as void, absorbing radar and light. Stealth cruisers glided forward like predators. Railgun platforms rotated silently into firing positions. Drone carriers released swarms of autonomous fighters that shimmered like metal wasps in formation. Each move was coordinated, rehearsed, and unervingly calm. At the head was the dreadnought Leviathan. A vessel so large it distorted gravitational readings. Its hull bore the scars of ancient conflicts, still operational, still immaculate. Commanded by Admiral Elias Rourke, a veteran of the forgotten rebellion on the galactic rim, the Leviathan had become a ghost story among younger fleets. Admiral Rourke's face appeared on every enemy bridge, his voice unflinching, "You have trespassed on sovereign human space. You will be neutralized." There was no dramatics. No ultimatums. No drawn-out negotiations. The battle lasted only 14 minutes. The Terran railguns opened first, sending hypervelocity slugs through Mershad shields as if they were paper. Noral frigates exploded before their defense AIs could react. Thai plasma barges attempted to fire, but Terran drone swarms had already short-circuited their targeting relays. Directed energy lances from Terran destroyers cut through engines and weapon bays with surgical accuracy. EMP nets crippled command vessels. In one coordinated strike, a dozen ships were rendered adrift within seconds. The Leviathan never fired its main weapon. It didn't need to. Terran casualty reports, 0. Not a single human ship was lost. The few enemy ships that tried to retreat found their jump drives offline, silently disabled by infiltrated subroutines planted years ago. They never knew they'd already lost before they arrived. As the wreckage drifted in orbit, Nova Terra's comm channels reopened. Civilian life resumed as if nothing had happened. And across the galaxy, a message spread, not by broadcast, but through the whispered awe of commanders and diplomats: the humans were not quiet because they were weak. They were quiet because they were ready. In the aftermath, the three younger species were forced to kneel before the chamber, public apologies etched into the Union archives for eternity. Their economies in ruin, their fleets crippled, their pride shattered. The chamber stood in complete silence as Ambassador Venkataraman rose one final time. She surveyed the hall, her voice steady, soft, and lethal. We do not seek dominance. We seek stability. If our silence troubled you, it is because you have not learned to listen. No one dared interrupt her. No one could. From that point on, the humans spoke even less. But they were listened to more. Young cadets from all species lined up for a chance to study at human military academies. Diplomats rewrote their training manuals to reflect Terran negotiation doctrine. Engineers across the galaxy attempted, mostly in vain, to replicate the sophistication of human-designed AI systems. Humanity returned to its rhythm, not in vengeance, but in vigilance. They rebuilt New Eden's gardens and reinforced Proxima's orbital defenses. Not as a message. Not for show, because that's what they always did, prepare, just in case. And across the stars, in hushed tones and reverent halls, when someone asked why the humans were respected, the answer remained the same, because when they stand, everything else sits down. And so, the galaxy moved forward. The humans, as always, moved in the background. Not because they were weak, but because they didn't need the spotlight. They had the stars, and the stars remembered.